Good evening, I am Amadin Ogbewe. Now, the northern part of Nigeria is bedeviled with insecurity that seems to be on the increase daily. With the threats of insurgency and terrorism, the menace takes a newer look with increased banditry in the region. This and more, coupled with low levels of education and high levels of poverty, have caused quite a stir in the region. My guest today is Abdul-Azeez Suleiman. He is the spokesperson of the Coalition of Northern Groups. He joins me today to speak on the northern situation and the yearnings at the community levels. Good evening.
Good evening, my brother.
Welcome to Top Talk.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's go straight into it. Now, it's on record that you said that the current administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is has more or less failed. Now, as a northern group, you seem to be one of the most critical I've personally seen of the administration. How is it for you and your group out there? Do northerners see you as some sort of traitor, in that a northerner is in power and yet you're so critical of the government?
Not really. It's true that the coalition of northern groups has become one of the strongest voices that speaks for the north today. Though, like you said, not many would prefer we speak in a different tone, but really we feel an obligation to the people to speak out for the protection and promotion of their interests. And I don't think anybody would feel that we've betrayed the North, because we fought to bring in this government, just like almost every other northerner. We all worked together, thinking that it would bring an end to the bombs and bullets that characterized the previous administration. That was just in the northeast. We had confidence in Buhari to bring an end to that. We had confidence, just like most other Nigerians, that he would arrest corruption and bring it to an end. We had confidence that he would help build a nation where people will be proud, in which people will be proud, where children will get jobs. So there was so much hope in him. And I don't think the North is wrong when it says that he has failed their expectations.
So don't you think you're in the minority? That
I don't know, not at all. We're not. We represent the interest of a larger majority of the population in the North. Yeah.
So the things you did mention that you expected President Buhari to do, categorically speaking, have you seen he hasn't done any of that?
Really, we are convinced that he has failed, his administration has failed in the vital area of providing security of lives and properties, not only in the North, but I think across the country. Every section of the country is facing a unique challenge around either economy or security particularly. So I don't, if we are to be honest, if we want to tell ourselves the truth, we have to admit that he has failed in that vital area.
All right, now, how do you respond to certain comments that perhaps one of the reasons the CNG or you're critical of the president is because you've also said that he was the only northern choice, or the main northern choice that was available, and northerners couldn't really juggle, so they were left with only President Buhari. What do you make of the talks that someone might say that the reason you are able to quote unquote speak truth to power is because not your first choice is not the person who ended up as president, and that perhaps that is why you're speaking this way, and that if it was another administration, another northerner who you gave more support or preferred, you wouldn't be speaking this way. How do you respond to that?
That is pedestrian, because the North generally is not given to supporting its own. Honestly, when it comes to issues of power, you can see that the North was an active participant in the struggle against the military, which was the leadership was dominated by the North. The North participated actively in the struggle against IBB, Nadeko. We have members who participated actively in Nadeko who were arrested. The North participated actively in the struggle that saw Abacha out, though he died, but against him. And the North, if you remember, gave Abiola majority votes against their own man, Bashir Tofa. So I think it's really a misrepresentation and the North has never claimed any leader as its own leader. Even during the First Republic, when everybody thought Sardauna was the sole leader of the North, and the Tafawa Balewa, who was prime minister, we had Aminu Kano, who was opposing them, and he was very strong here. So you see, we have never had a situation where we claim we championed the protests against Eradua, our own man. We championed the protest against him. We said he was sick, he has to go. That was what compelled the National Assembly to hide behind doctrine of necessity. And if you look at it again, if you compare it to other places elsewhere, I think we had a situation when Jonathan, a Nigerian president, was referred to as our son by the Ijaw. You understand? We are having a situation now where a whole section of the country is asking for Igbo presidency. Not even, you understand? Not even sectional Igbo presidency. I don't think the North has ever, for once, said it wanted a Hausa president or a Fulani president. And when it comes to the North, you find that we have never had a single political, even Buhari was challenged by Konkoso in the same party. And Atiku was challenged him. He had to even leave his party in order to challenge him. So you can see we are not really that rigid when it comes to. So no one will say it's big, but we brought in the government. We did.
Yeah, but was he your preferred candidate? Wouldn't you have preferred someone else?
Not at all. You see, at that time, 2014, 2015, there was a general consensus among the elite that Jonathan had to go. There was that consensus all over the country that Jonathan had to go. Even the international community was set to see that Jonathan had left. Now, there were two major parties, and because of that consensus, all the big hands in the PDP, including governors and state governors, and PDP was essentially a northern party, because at that time there were about 13 PDP controlled states. They all left for the APC. So you see, that was an elite consensus that certainly, because of Jonathan, PDP had to die in the north, especially. Senators, a lot of big hands left the PDP and joined the APC. So everybody was now looking at the APC to produce a candidate. And Konkoso contested against Buhari, I think, and the Southwest backed Buhari. You understand? We were not really sure if the North also, if Konkoso had defeated Buhari, because we only heard about the ballpark. Because I don't think Konkoso would have had the capacity to beat Buhari even in the North, because that was where he has his mass followership, and it was a cult followership. But in any case, he became an alternative candidate, not only for the North, but for the whole of Nigeria, because there was this consensus generally that Jonathan had to go for whatever reason. The North had its own reason because of the conflicts in the northeast, which was spread into other places. So I think it's not an issue of talking to him because he was not our candidate. You understand? The North has never had a single candidate for itself. It has never had.
No, you know why I pointed out is that when you look at the CNG, you tend to say things that people, you know, the stereotypes that people have, and they believe that a northerner would always support their own, regardless of how he, you know, there's that strong loyalty, you know, it doesn't matter whether they're doing well or not. So when because what I was saying was comments that we're seeing. Yeah. So when someone says, "Wow, this is a northern group," but they seem to be saying it, you know, the way they see it. They're not trying to be, you know, because you'd see certain events where, you know, when persons are talking about the state of the nation, you start to wonder if it's the same country you're in, you know. And that's why I put it to you.
I understand what you're...
Yeah, but no, let's talk a little bit, or move over now to insecurity itself. You're a northerner yourself. You are in the thick of it. You're in the grassroots and all that. What exactly is the problem from your vantage point when you know, it's easy for a southerner to say these people are fighting and so on, you know, when they are not there. But in the thick of it, how did we go from having one Chibok incident to having multiple Chibok level events in just a couple of years? And it keeps, you know, spiraling. You know, just as we speak now, earlier today, the president is in Bono right now in Maiduguri. Before he landed, there were a series of explosions, as though from reports it was by ISWAP. So, what do you have to say, being that you're in the thick of it, that this matter has rapidly, geometrically increased since the era of the Jonathan administration?
You see, I think it's not just since the era of Jonathan. Jonathan also inherited it. You see, this is every community has its misunderstandings over land specifically, and the North had its peculiar intermittent conflicts over land between herders and farmers, which were handled easily at the community level. Now, these problems began to get worse with the coming of the civilian administration and some policies that were not favorable to containing those conflicts. For instance, when the local government system is emasculated, you find that it leaves a lot of room for non-reconciliation and other things. The local government council is closer to the people, and that was the role it played. It played an important role in quashing tension. You understand? So that the Fulani and the farmer will simply go to meet their councillor. The councillor will take the matter to the chairman, and that will be the end of it. But you can see now, with the emasculation of the local government councils, we've gone around most of the affected communities. We discovered that there appears to be no government presence at all. So we have vast, literally ungoverned spaces. You understand? Because the local government councils, you have the councils, the buildings, the secretariats, which are in any case far from the rural areas, and even at that, they are almost every day empty, because the chairman is running to the state capital to seek favors from the governor, who is holding the local government funds. And once the chairman is not in the council, because he holds everything when he comes back, so you find that there is no activity around the council, which is why politicians also exploited the situation because there was no government presence. at the grassroots. So politicians chipped in. If we remember the Boko Haram issue, it was a political motivated, everyone knew about it, that some politicians were using some thugs to do this, to do that, and eventually they got out of hand and became a threat to everybody. And another problem is is about Nigerians as a whole. These things will keep escalating unless we change our method of approach to issues. I think at the onset of the Boko Haram conflict, a U.S. security expert wrote something, which I failed to forget. He said, if Nigerians make the mistake of looking at this conflict in terms of religion or ethnicity, they will die by the millions. Because the perpetrators, according to him, of that conflict, to them, life means nothing. So it means, and we committed that mistake. If you remember, we did. The South, especially the Niger Delta, thought it was the North who was doing it to give Jonathan a bad name, their son. And the North said it was Jonathan who was doing it to reduce our population. So we made that mistake. So Boko Haram get grounds, and until towards the end of perhaps 2014, 2015, when the people of Borno themselves began to do what was right, that is to rally round their communities and assist the troops to fight those people. Because you don't just say, okay, a battalion of army will be moved from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, and you expect them to know where Sambisa is located or how to fight. But you, the people on ground, should be able to back them, work with them, and that's what the people of Borno State did. Now you can see the truth is that Borno is a relatively more secure environment than most states in the Northwest, because the Northwest is committing the same mistake. Same mistake. If you go to the communities, you'll hear harsh tones about informers, about involvement of local traditional title holders. They will even show you the route the bandits take, because these bandits are not flying in the air. They come across communities, commit their atrocities, and go back. So a time will come, and that's what we are telling the people, that there is a limit to fleeing your communities. You have to stand firm. Everyone knows the criminal in his own household, not to talk of his community. We all know those with criminal tendencies in our own households. That was what Borno did. When they saw that these guys were going to annihilate them, they started picking out the people they know from their houses. A father will bring his son and say, you are part of them. I think unless we start doing that, if you look at a report today, I saw a clip, the Commissioner of Police in Kaduna State was displaying about a man and about 5 girls of 13, 19. The oldest is just about 30 years old ladies, that they were arrested in Zaria. Not in Giwa or Bidingwari, you understand? In Zaria main town. And they've been involved with giving information to the bandits, buying food stuff for them, and taking women to them. So you can see, I believe if you go to the environments in Zaria, those girls, a lot of people will tell you that they've been suspecting them. You understand? But why did they not expose them? So if we keep shielding these people, we are certainly not going to see the end of it. That was what, like I told you, the Northeast did. Even Yobe State thought it was just a Borno problem. And this thing consumed Yobe, consumed the entire North. east and encroached into the northwest. So you see there are things we used to handle things with levity and perhaps condescension, and politicians have also muddled up the issue. Even during the Jonathan era, you find that politicians took advantage of the situation and were pointing at Jonathan directly, not minding the roles that the omissions by the governors who are directly in control of the states, or the omissions of those who were to serve him when he was president. I think I argued in 2014 that before we can directly challenge this man, why not we talk to our fellow northerners who are in his government. He has given us the national security advisor, has given us the defense minister, he has given all northerners. This guy is not a northerner. Maybe he has not even been to Borno State. So why don't we challenge them first? What are you doing there?
Right. Do you think it might be, will I say, a cultural or religious issue now? Because what I'm hearing now is that you said they take things somehow with levity also. Now, just to point out some scenarios, there are actually times that we've seen, using just social media as an example, what people call Arewa internet or whatever. We've seen massive reaction from them for certain issues. Take, for instance, an actress wears a dress that exposes her back, and the whole day, the whole week, we hear, there's a lot of outrage. But then for when 20 people get killed, we seem not to hear. Do you think it might be a problem where people actually do not see this as big of an issue as these other things that other parts of the country wouldn't even, look at or think as is anything?
You see, like I told you, it's this issue of being used to handling things with levity. Perhaps that is a softer target. You understand? Most of the North, as you can see, culturally or I think historically, has been brought up by condescenders. You understand? People who condescend upon the. So you find that most ordinary Northerners are prone to be loyal even to a fault. So they think. Some people may even think that it's a crime to challenge the community, but that is a soft target. You understand? They can easily challenge her, which I can tell you that most northern outlets, those small portals, don't even carry our stories because they're afraid. You understand? And you can see if you go higher, look at Gani Adams, the OPC leader. His people embraced him. You understand? They embraced him, and he's even now a traditional title holder. You understand?
Yes.
But I'm quite sure the emir in my town would not even want to see me near his palace. Do you understand? So there is that condescension and the culture of what? It's not humility, I don't call that humility. Docility, which we've been trying to fight now. We've been trying to awaken the people to the reality that they are being manipulated and their life has been wasted.
All right. You actually seem quite progressive. It's still... Well, anyway, let's move on now. I know recently you were in Sokoto, and you've explained that the Sokoto, the branch of the CNG is the ones calling for protest and all that. Do you think that is something that can even happen? Do you think if that call is, taken to all corners of Nigeria, it's something that would yield results? Now, we know that the South, the West, and others they're used to protests. We had the NSAS that rocked the whole nation, and it's something that we've seen that others do. But recently, I think a lady in, I don't remember what state specifically, but in the north, she tried to kickstart a protest, and she was called in by the officials. There was someone else who is quite popular on social media. They call him Was Papin. I think he's from Kaduna or Sokoto. He also planned protest, but then all of a sudden he comes and he says that I don't want the DSS to call me, so I've called off the protest. So in that respect, do you think that protest is something that can gain ground? Is it even something possible?
You see, the CNG was in the forefront of staging massive protests across all the northern states over this insecurity. If you remember, our leaders were arrested in Katsina for protesting when the Kagara boys, 300 boys were abducted. We even had to bring in the international media. All this, they were there, they observed what happened, they saw what happened, they saw it, they acknowledged that it was a massive peaceful protest. Now we extended the protests to every one of the 19 northern states. It was going on. Then the NSAS came. We were doing our protest when the NSAS came. We approached some, because the NSAS did not have identified leadership, but we approached some of them and said, why not join us in the end insecurity? So we give it a national issue. SARS can come under insecurity, but you don't expect insecurity to come under SARS. They refused, they went, and when the two protests were going on concurrently. In the north, we were doing end insecurity, and in the south, they were doing end SARS. Then it assumed a new phase completely, the end SARS, with the rampage and killings, whoever started it, but it became violent. Ordinarily, initially it was genuine and legitimate, but then it turned violent. They said hoodlums had. Now we sensed that those guys were even much more organized than the crowd we were pulling out in the north. If we allow that to happen in northern Nigeria, I think the chaos would have been much more greater than what we saw there. So we quickly called off the insecurity protests. Now, it was all along the CNG that has been talking about insecurity, that had even become exposed to dual threats. The bandits, I'm sure if you go to the bandits, they will tell you that they know my face, because they used to see me maybe on social media or on television, because they have all these gadgets saying that they must be killed, they must be finished, and the government also must have marked me, because I've been outspoken. I'm the first spokesperson. No day passes without me making a statement. So we were doing that. Now, what is making us suspicious is that there is a proliferation of groups that one cannot ascertain coming out to say they want to stage protests. And this is election season, whether we like it or not. Politicians can easily capitalize in that. And besides, even the protests we did for months did not change anything. So why don't we change tactics by bringing out people onto the streets, especially the northern crowd that may not necessarily be controlled decently? I think we will only be causing greater conflict, which is why even the Sokoto, we did not call for protests. Even the branch said was that if in 3 months action is not taken by government, visible action is not taken by government, they will occupy those 6 states, the frontline states. And I think that is a way of saying that people, they will mobilize people to come out and protect themselves. Because we don't expect the communities to be fleeing from their homes and families. Certainly, there has to be a time when we are going to resist. So I think that was what the Sokoto people were saying, but they wouldn't have done it without the consent of the national headquarters. And this is the thinking in the national headquarters now, that we have to do something constructive, not just protesting. Because if you pull out a crowd, the public is already angry. So if you pull out an angry crowd, you cannot guarantee its conduct, you cannot guarantee its membership, you cannot guarantee its identity, the identity of the participants there. So that will be risky for not only us, but the communities. And that will not threaten the bandits. Rather, they may even be more emboldened. Because
but don't you think perhaps this is a sign that maybe Northerners actually have less, what I call it, belief in the government than the rest of the country? Why I say this is because only someone who believes that their cries would be heard actually go on to protest. You know, you don't just protest for the sake of it. You protest because you feel when you peacefully show the government that this is your issue, they would listen to you. Whether people might not agree here and there, but there was a list of demands that the NSAS protest had. And one by one, to varying levels of success, those things have been ticked off the list. Like I said, to varying levels of success. People might say it hasn't been done well or good enough, but there's been an attempt to look like the government is doing something, even as far as the panel reports that were released recently. Now, do you think perhaps Northerners need to believe a little bit more once again?
No, you see, what's happening is that there is no similarity between the protests in the South and what people hope to see in the North. Because, okay, if you protest, what action do you want to see from government? Already there's action from government. You understand? There's action from government. It's killing the bandits every day. They are battling the bandits every day. But what other action are we expecting? So that's why we are taking a more...
But do you believe the government is doing all that it can right now?
No, well, as far as the government is concerned, it says it is doing its best. And people can see that there is fight going on. It's not that the people are not challenged. The problem is not going to be solved by protests. We have to get all stakeholders agree that we must have to impress on our governors to take a uniform position, a uniform approach. You understand? Like I think 2 days ago, the forests in Zamfara were bombarded by the military. But what happened? These people moved to Kaduna. You understand? Because there's no uniform defense system, which is what we've been calling for. I think whether anybody wants to believe it or not, the Amotekun itself is making a great impact in the southwest. But here, you find that every state is approaching the issue in isolation, and you can't just expect to succeed. Even if you have the military bombing everywhere, these people will simply come back into the cities. You understand? We have to have a system whereby we isolate them. That is what we are doing now. We are encouraging the communities to stand firm, back the military. You know the terrain better than the army that just...
So are you saying that you're not in support of like statements by people like Ahmad Gumi, Sheikh Gumi, where they want you to embrace bandits and bring them back into the community?
The CNG has never been in support of that. You see, crime is crime, and I think you can see that Gumi is speaking alone, because that is the nature of the North.
Are you sure he doesn't have a secret majority behind him? You know, people who might not speak but silently share anymore.
No. Go and see the comments by even the ordinary Northerners. Understand? When he speaks. You understand? I think he has lost all his popularity due to... He used to be our man, CNG, but we dissociated openly. That we said, no, we don't agree with you on this. You understand? You see, if you look at it, I think this is something that is practical. The North is not given to supporting someone who they believe is not on the right track. You can see, I think, look at Dasuki. He is the son of the Sultan of Sokoto.
Yeah.
When they said he had taken money, corruption or something, he was there for 4 years. Nobody spoke. Nobody said, please release him. You understand? Look at Zazaki. He had influence in Zaria and almost most parts of northern Nigeria. When he was arrested, nobody went there to say. Only his only a handful of his followers were protesting in Abuja. Nobody, no influential person, no influential group said he should be released. We allow the courts to do. So that differentiates us from other people that think some people just say the whole North is behind Gumi. No. All the whole North, the expectation is that we should all be behind Buhari. I've never done that. Gumi, I think, has lost his... You see, he's not even talking now. He's not talking. He said he would not even talk again about it because he knew that he has lost his constituency by saying that. And there was no justification in his argument, and he was left on his own. All
right. Let's just finally now, who do you believe can solve the situation? Like God. You said, sir?
God.
You said God?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I've been taken aback by that. You know, initially you said you were part of people that brought in this government, which shows that the CNG can pick someone and say, this is who we believe. Right now, other than God, maybe through God's instrument, who do you believe right now can do that, being that President Buhari doesn't seem to be getting it completely right? Do you have anyone in mind? Perhaps some other candidate that, or someone you are seeing right now who is doing well, that you would hope comes out in 2023?
You see, we really don't have confidence in any of the present political actors because they are birds of the same feather. Most of those in the APC were from the PDP. So I think only Buhari had never been in PDP, all of them. So they are just people who think, who see power as an end in itself, and you don't expect them to protect your interests or the interests of the larger majority of the people. So what we are trying to do, which we have even started, was to struggle to bring about a new political order in which it will be cross-regional, cross-tribal, cross-religion. Let's struggle to have a Nigerian president for once.
So would you be running?
Of course, if the opportunity permits. Because you see, we need to have people who would think outside the box, and they have to be people that are outside the box. Already there is a fortification by the politicians since 1999. They have boxed themselves in. Nobody is allowed to come in. You understand? You find, look at what they're even trying to do now. If you are a governor, when you are leaving, you bring in either your wife or your friend. You understand? So they have that.
That's fortification.
Yes.
All right. We've run out of time now, but this has been very interesting. Mr. Suleiman, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming to Top Talk.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.